everyone, and welcome to our next Faculty Fellow Spotlight with the Pulte Institute for Global Development. Today I'm here with Professor Wendy Angst. Wendy, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning, Corey.
So as part of the Pulte Institute's Faculty Fellow Spotlight series, I'd like to just ask you a few questions. Are you up for it?
I am. Let's go.
Great. Okay, so first question, can you just introduce yourself and also maybe tell us something that you think students would be surprised to find out about you?
My name is Wendy Angst, and I'm a teaching professor in the Mendoza College of Business in the Management and Organization Department. I just recently stepped down from being the assistant chair, which is a position I held for the past 6 years. So enjoying a little bit more time in my schedule. Something surprising that students would be surprised to learn about me would be the fact that I have a goal of running a marathon on every continent. So I am slowly chipping away at this goal, and the next one I have scheduled is the Patagonia Marathon coming up this fall.
Wow, that's incredible. What are some of the readings that perhaps inspire you or have influenced you in your work?
One of my favorite texts of all time is by Clayton Christensen, who passed away recently, but he has a book that is called Measure What Matters. And the focus is really around being intentional around what your goals are for life and making sure you live out your values. And then another book that I really have learned to appreciate, and I use it in my classes, is Lean Impact by Ann Mei Chang.
What would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, I would say some of the best piece of advice I received was from a mentor in my early 20s, and she is a mentor who got me started on this notion around, I call it life journey mapping, is how I incorporate this into my professor's choice lectures now. But this notion around being intentional around things that you want to achieve, not just with your career, but in your personal life and in development and in travel and in ways that you honor your faith and your family and your friendships. But being intentional about those things, and then not just expecting that they'll happen, but being mindful around what steps you need to take to get there. So that great advice started me on this path of life journey mapping that I've been doing for over 20 years. And it's something that I update regularly, and all of my friends have this as well. And it's gotten to be a nice way that we encourage one another and support each other in the things we're working towards.
Absolutely. That's a great bit of advice. If you could interview anyone throughout history, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Mother Teresa is the first person that came to mind for me. I would just love to be in her presence and just hear about her story and the amazing faith that she has that's guided the work that she has done that's impacted the lives of so many around the world.
What is your favorite quote and why?
I would say one of the ones that I use most often with my children is think you can, think you can't, either way you're right. But a quote that I use most often in my classroom when I'm doing my professor's choice lecture is a quote from Pope Francis that I'll just read. This is important: to get to know people, listen, expand the circle of ideas. The world is crisscrossed by roads that come closer together and move apart, but the important thing is that they lead towards the good. So I love sharing that quote at the end of the semester when we do this lecture around being intentional about living out your values and pursuing your goals and using your talents, because to me it represents just the fact that, you know, life isn't always going to be perfect and not everything will work out as planned, as you're working towards your degree and how you'll be spending your time once you graduate, but just, being consistent with those values and that, making sure that the roads lead towards the good and it will all work itself out.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. What would you say inspires you most?
The students at Notre Dame inspire me the most. I consider it such a privilege and an honor to be a part of the Notre Dame family and to have the opportunity to engage with students in the classroom, especially around, impactful experiential projects. But I tell you, like every student that, I have the chance to encounter, they just have such amazing stories and such passion that they put into the work the work for what they're pursuing for the jobs and the work they would like to do once they graduate, but also just the way that they intentionally use their time and talents to give back and serve others. I sometimes, joke with my parents saying, I feel like you could pick any one of these Notre Dame students to be, a world leader, and we would be in really good hands.
Oh, that's great. How did you first get involved with global development work, and what work have you done with the Pulte Institute?
Well, my first foray into global development work happened when I became a Pulte Fellow. So it was in my first introductory meeting where we were going around the room and introducing ourselves to fellow fellows. And I heard about the project in Uganda with a school called St. Vikitas, and the fact that this was a project that the gentleman, Tom Lochran, a colleague of mine, said they were looking for some student project support around. So I ended up incorporating the project into my innovation and design thinking course in spring 2020. And 2 years later, I've spent a lot of time continuing to work on this project with St. Vikitas, and it's helped to develop a variety of projects through the innovation and design thinking class. And then we've created an Innovation for Impact Club, a consulting course around continuing to work on these projects, and then also an immersion course where students have the opportunity to travel and work hand in hand with our partners in Uganda.
So what work or research have you done that you feel most passionate about?
It would have to be the project with St. Vikitas. So as mentioned, in spring of 2020 was our first opportunity to engage with St. Vikitas. And at that time, we presented our project around how might we reimagine vocational education in Uganda. And once we had a chance to go on site in March of 2020, so right before we all knew the full effects of COVID and returned home for a long stay, we saw firsthand that we weren't quite thinking about our work with St. Vikitas the right way. And so we ended up reframing our challenges to think more about how we work with the girls at St. Vikitas to enable them to have more power to shape their futures and the opportunity to improve the economic outcomes of the community that they live in. So since that time, through student projects, the way we structure it is that the students do the research, they come up with concepts, they test them, and then we present those ideas for additional financial support. So since that time, we've been able to take forward student projects that have been tied to installing a computer lab that enables us to do remote literacy tutoring with the students at St. Vikitas. We've planted over 20,000 trees at our farmland that we call Innovation Acres that will help with the deforestation crisis, and then also additional income opportunities for our students. We're in the process of rolling out an e-commerce platform where we'll be able to sell the tailoring products that our students have made at St. Vikitas, and we're in early discussions, fingers crossed, that we might be able to have some of these products at the bookstore as well. But it's been amazing, and I guess the foundational piece of that too is launching the Innovation Scholars Program. So we have a work study program that we've provided to 78 students to enable them to be at the school and to pursue these innovation opportunities in collaboration with the students here at Notre Dame. So it's been just a beautiful collaboration of students working together across the globe. Girls at a vocational school, many of which are young mothers who weren't able to finish their primary school education, and collaborating hand in hand with our students here at Notre Dame to think about ways they can really make an impact together.
What advice would you give to students who want to make a difference in the world?
I love this question, and within the past week, I've had this conversation with two students pursuing different paths. Coming out of the Mendoza School of Business, we have a lot of students that are, heading into consulting firms or different organizations that they maybe don't view as giving them the same opportunity for having this type of impact. And for students, especially in the consulting field, that kind of say, well, I've stepped into this role, I'm working really hard, I'm learning a ton, but I'm not, having the opportunity that I would like to engage. And I always encourage these students that, you don't need to have, the opportunity completely laid out for you. You have a lot of time and talents, and what your interests are can really help you shape and identify opportunities where you can start small and maybe create a project that's working on the issue of homelessness, if that's something you're passionate about. But starting with the resources you have. And then another example, just recently, a student who received a perfect score on his LSAT, who was debating not going to law school because he's so passionate about certain causes and issues, and was thinking about joining the nonprofit realm and heading right into that world. And I'm still not certain what path this student will take, but just encouraging him to say that you can think more of a longer play, and what are the skills that you can develop that can help you to have maybe a bigger impact on the causes that you care about, and then find those opportunities to get engaged and bring that into the work that you're doing now, even while you're a law student, right? Helping start some different clubs or organizations, or getting involved in the community in a certain way. So it's never an either or. I always encourage students, even if you pick a major that you're all in on business or you're all in on development work, it's not an either or. I mean, you have so many gifts and talents and so many different paths that your life will take over time that just find ways and be creative and make them happen, bring them together.
Where can people learn more about the work that you've done?
So I would suggest my LinkedIn profile. So it's Wendy Angst, ANGST. We also, for the work at St. Paquita's, we have an Instagram page, a Facebook page, a website that is in the process of being relaunched over the next couple of weeks. And so that would be at St. Paquita's, and it's St. Paquita, BAKHITA. So stpaquitas.org would be where you would find that information.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for your time and for letting us feature you on our Faculty Fellow Spotlight series. It's been great getting to know more about you and your work, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the opportunity, Corey.